Welcome to the FYI Baxter Story podcast. I'm Maddie, a chef apprentice at Baxter Story and your host of today's episode. Having just had our Chef Academy graduation and new Obsessed Expo for 2025, we wanted to dive deep into a chef's creative mind, which sparks their passion and fuels their identity. We're joined by a very special guest today, Head of Chef Development, Rik Razza. Rik is somewhat of a legend, serving up knowledge and power for 28 years at Baxter Story. So, Rik, I'm honoured to be sat here with you today and to hear about your journey and your experiences in the industry. Tell us what made you choose cooking as a career. Did you find your passion along the way, or have you always been drawn to food?
Well, firstly, Maddie, it's lovely to be here with you as well.
Thank you.
It's great to be interviewed by you, so thank you for that. I suppose I was blessed, Maddie. I had a Swedish mum and an Italian dad, so I was brought up in a really nice blended culture.
That's a cool mix.
Yeah, really cool mix. Yeah. So that was nice, and I think from that as well, what I started to see with both grandparents. So the Swedish grandparent was called Mormor, the Italian one was Nonna, and with Mormor I started to see her cooking kind of like fresh crabs, fresh crayfish, things like that.
Yeah.
And Nonna, she was doing pasta and gnocchi fresh, when we were in Italy and when we were in Sweden.
Yeah.
And I was totally oblivious to it, if I'm honest. I just saw food and I enjoyed it. So Dad was a restaurant manager. So Dad worked in some of the top places in London. So he worked at Quivadis, looking after Sophia Loren when she used to go, and they named a chicken dish after her as well. Yeah, well, that's really cool actually. And then he worked at the Grosvenor House as well. So he had this kind of love for hosting and service, which I started to see. And then he bought some restaurants, and the migration was that I just started working for him. But prior to that, when we lived in one of the restaurants that he was running, I remember I used to go down when I was younger and we used to pinch the mise en place from the pastry chefs.
Did you?
Fridge on a Sunday night when they were closed, and never
brilliant.
really knew. And he would just like lose it with us. When he used to come in on a Monday and say, "Who's been in the fridge again?" Oh, it was us, obviously. So I think through all of that, the passion started to drive and develop. And then I started working for Dad. So school wasn't for me. I was shocking at school. It wasn't for me at all. I went to catering college, Westminster College, and I went from a 0 student to an A student because I found a passion there. I love working with food, and it all just started to click together for me, which was good. It was a little bit of a rascal when I was younger, so actually this started to straighten me out a wee bit. And then I started working for Dad in his restaurant. And I started as a waiter actually first, which I'm really grateful for now. You know, when you kind of look back.
Like a lot of chefs start with either kitchen porter when you're in the thought of you see it all happening.
I think so, yeah. The waiting side for it, to me, really started to show that how the front of house and the back of house need to work together to get the best to delight the customer, because the food's got to be right, but the service has got to be right, and the whole environment's got to be right. And that started me on my path, I suppose. And it's all unbeknown to me at the time when all that was going on. It was all things that you see. And then all of a sudden, when you look back, you think, okay, that's where it all started. All those little tidbits that you see in there, I was like, oh, that's really exciting. So that's kind of how I got into it and got excited about it, really.
Yeah. Pretty good story.
And for you, Maddie, what got you passionate about cooking and what got you into it?
I guess I'm the same as you. I've always been a foodie. I've always loved food. My nickname when I was a kid growing up from my nan was Maddie Two Puds, because after my roast dinner on a Sunday, I would always have 2 puddings without fail. But I guess my career into being a chef was quite unexpected, I would say. It's not like what you'd think. So in my really early teens, I suffered with disordered eating. I didn't really understand nutrition. I didn't understand what fueling your body meant. I just thought, growing up as a young girl, you think, eat as little as possible. That's what was sort of like culturally around, like I'm on my phone, And I thought that was good to eat as little as possible. I didn't understand. And then I guess it was through my recovery, I sort of gained such a deep understanding of like, oh, I understand what it means to fuel your body. Food shouldn't be demonized, like it's amazing. My mindset really changed, and I think that's why I'm so interested in nutrition now, but not just nutrition. It's about connecting you with other people. It's about making your food, it's not about making your food boring, it's about adding colour, it's about making it delicious. I just wanted to sort of share that with other people. My love language is giving food to people.
Nice.
I love it so much. So I just sort of fell into the chefing industry, but with like sort of a nutritious side to it, and I absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
And
what's great about that is how you've turned that kind of negative part of your life into a real positive, and your mindset's changed, but now you're driving it, and actually this is something I love to do, but I can also kind of give to others as well.
Yes.
That's great. Awesome.
One thing about the chef career path that no one talks about enough?
That is a great question, isn't it? Because I think there's the obvious one, which I will go there and just say first, is obviously cooking amazing food.
Yeah.
Right. It's just that lovely ingredients that we get in cooking. But what's not talked about is all of the transferable skills that go with that. So leadership, team dynamics, communication, coaching, mentoring, solution finding, organisation, timing, all of those leadership skills that you can pick up, Maddie, and you can take anywhere, you know? You wouldn't want to obviously step out of a white chef jacket, why would you? But those skills that you've got, you can apply in any walk of life, whether it's your personal life or whether you apply it to another trade, or hopefully apply it to the trade that we're in and that we love. So I think to me, that is the one thing that isn't talked about enough. And you can get so much, certainly from my younger days, it was all about cook, 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 cook. I wasn't worried about all the other bits around it. But actually, as I started to get a bit older and started to realise, hold on a minute, there's other things here that are as important as the cooking, if not more important sometimes. And I think those transferable skills are the bits that aren't talked about enough.
As you're saying as well, you said growing up, you're a terror in school, didn't like school, but I think that's also the school mentality. It's very black and white, like sometimes not being book smart, but you don't learn these things at school, and all these skills are so valuable.
They are.
What are your non-negotiables in a team?
So, super important. This is one of the fundamental questions here. And I'll split it into two. One, the trust piece, and then the culture piece. So the trust piece, Maddie, is on the academy we teach the trust equation, and the trust equation is trust, T, equals C times R times I over SI. Now the C, so this is the non-negotiables. So the C is credibility. So have you got the skills? Have you got the knowledge? Have you got the qualification? Can you do what you say you can do? So that's the credibility side. The reliability is all about, do you turn up when you say you turn up? Do you walk the walk? Are you there for the team? You know, do you do what you say you're going to do? And then the intimacy piece is an interesting piece, because the intimacy is twofold. Firstly, it's kind of being empathetic and an ear to listen to people, to find out what's going on and understand them. But the other side is really powerful of intimacy. It's where you drive someone. At the moment, we need to do better. And all that is over SI, which is self-interest. So it's not about me, it's about everyone else. And if it's about me, you never build trust. Because people see straight through that, don't they? So I think building trust, so when I look at non-negotiables, they're my non-negotiables of trust, you know? And then culture, I think culture is all about a shared vision. So a vision that you put in place, that is a shared vision with your team. So all of your team input to that vision, they're part of it. Because otherwise, if you come with a vision by yourself and they're not part of it, are they going to buy into it, you know? There's an element of, people call it leading from the front. I'm not keen on that word, but there's an element of you have to set the tone sometimes, if you like. But all the time when you set the tone, you're setting it with the team as well. You're not just doing it by yourself. Everyone has parts of it, because if everyone has part of it, you get ownership and you get responsibility as well.
And then they feel included.
Exactly that, Maddie, totally. And actually, what right have I got to say that my team don't know better than me? They have got the answers and knowledge, and they've also got their visions and where they want to go. So I need to include them very much in any of the vision that we put in place. And that starts to drive and build the culture. And then the next piece next to that is consistency. It's being super, super consistent with what you do, how you work with people, how you include people, and just make sure that consistency is. And that starts to drive culture.
What advice would you give to chefs who are just starting but don't know their culinary identity?
It's a lovely question, that, and it's something I wish someone had asked me many, many years ago, I suppose. And I think what I'll come to is purpose. So there's a lovely kind of Japanese saying, which is ikigai, which talks
Never
about,
heard of that.
so it talks about purpose and value, and it's really finding something that you love doing, something that you're good at as well, something that the world wants, and then hopefully as well you can get paid for it, you know.
Yeah.
And then from that is then kind of like discovering what is my purpose, what is my value in life, you know. Why do I get up in the morning? You get up in the morning, you go to work, you work really hard, you come back home, you have to do what you do back at home. You go to sleep and then you rinse and repeat.
Yeah.
There's got to be a purpose behind that to understand. So my purpose is very much to nourish people both in their minds and their bodies through food, beverage and conversation whilst I journey with them.
Yeah.
And that's what gets me going. That's my purpose. I think it's important to find that purpose, that understanding, because that drives who you are and what you can then do within your life, your workplace, your home life, wherever it may be. With your identity, obviously, Maddie, you know, you're starting off in your journey in life, and you've already kind of shared with us, and thank you for that, because that transparency of sharing, you know, with your eating disorder, it is lovely to hear that you're comfortable to share that, which is just superb. Kind of from a purpose and a value for yourself, where are your thoughts on that at the moment, and where do you see yourself kind of journeying to?
I think that when you're just starting out as a chef, I think it's actually quite good to not put yourself in a box. And I think it's good to not know exactly where you're going to go, because then you'll let yourself experiment with lots of different avenues. And I think that is what I'm enjoying at the moment. I love a bit of everything. I like trying new things. I think last week for the first time I did fine dining, which I've never done before, which I've eaten, but I've never actually been the other side of it. Like the very intricacy of the plating, and that was all completely new to me, which I loved. But then I was like, I don't know if I'd want to do that all the time. But yeah, with everything that I make and I do, and when I create my menus for work and everything, there's always has somewhat of a nutritious sort of focus on the background, but then I just make it exciting, and that's just basically what I love to do.
Excellent.
And how do you spot talent in young chefs? What do you look beyond the knife skills?
I think when you sit down and interview a chef, at that stage in their career, it's not about their craft, it's more about their attitude. So I'm looking for their attitude. I'm looking for that hunger for them to better themselves, that desire to constantly push on and be better. I'm looking for them to understand what is their kind of like purpose in life, or if you ask them that question, are they able to start to articulate that and get a sense of they know a little bit of direction, albeit, you know, really taking on board what you said, that direction has got to be very wide at that stage as well, so they can experience as many things as possible for definite. And I'm looking at someone as well that is going to be competitive, you know, got that little bit of edge to them, that they're going to push and challenge others around them as well. So I think that's kind of what I look for in a chef coming through, are those kind of three elements.
I think as well, because not anyone, most people can cook food. If you've got the right, you can watch a video on YouTube, you can have the most amazing ingredients, the freshest ingredients, it's going to taste nice, but you have to have the drive, the passion. Passion is a big one as well, because you're not going to go too far if you don't enjoy what you're doing, you don't have the passion.
The passion side of it is so important. It's sometimes difficult to quantify that with people as well. What are they actually passionate about? And I think that's where you can tie it back into, right, okay, have you got any thoughts about where you want to go? What is your route that you want to take? But that passion and desire is utmost for definite, because then you can work with them, right? You can work with them 100%. I think it's been great that chefs have become celebrities and all things like that. I think it's kind of damaged perception of young chefs a little bit as well, because they want to rush through a bit too quick.
So we have just hosted our first ever Obsessed Expo. Can you talk about the purpose of why we did this?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think since Obsessed came on board, where are we, 3.5, 4 years ago, you know, there's been a real fire that has started to roar underneath food and beverage again, which is super exciting.
Yeah, it is.
It's exciting for everyone to be part of it, and people want to be part of it that aren't part of it at the moment. So that's really good. And I think there's a true belief in there in respect of the culture of what Obsessed is. And Obsessed is a culture. It's not a concept, it's a culture that people, one, believe in and then start to deliver back in location. So there's a real belief in craft, there's a real belief in creativity, in community, in cheer and carbon, and that's utmost. And if we can start to grab that and truly believe in it, and I think this is the difference here with a culture, if you start to believe in it and see what that culture is, then every day that you walk into your kitchen or you walk into your restaurant, you start to deliver that.
Yes.
And that in turn starts to delight the customers. And I think that is where the cultural movement of Obsessed is. That's what it's all about. So today, what we saw was this incredible celebration of what Obsessed is. Everything about that. And within that, this golden thread now of sustainable nutrition that is so important that we bring that into the workplace. So there's great purpose around our people, how we feed them, and great purpose around the planet in respect of how we look after the planet as well.
Yeah.
And I think today has been just a massive celebration of that.
And we have a huge focus on sustainable nutrition and how this benefits our teams, customers and the planet. Can you talk us a little bit about our sustainable nutrition goals for the future?
Yeah, definitely. So I think we're moving into this kind of era now, which is great. There's a great quote, which I can't remember it fully, but it talks about intelligent eating and how we eat intelligently. And to me, if I then translate that, that translates into very much sustainable nutrition. What is the purpose behind what we do, basically, in everything in life, but within our food and our beverage as well. And I think when you look at sustainable nutrition, we've just put together this amazing 3-day course on sustainable nutrition that has been accredited by the Association for Nutritionists at the highest level. When we shared that with them, they were blown away by the pack that we had put together over the 3 days. And that 3 days is a blend of amazing teaching from our nutritionist, Lizzie, and from our new nutritional chef trainer, Steve Wilson, and then combined with examples of food that run into that sustainable nutrition course as well. So it all combines together. So I think that's key. And the targets around that is that we pass 120 chefs through there.
Okay.
Part of that journey with that is going to be that when they have gone on to the 3-day course, that they then go back and as a minimum, they implement the bronze Food for Life standard within their location. So at the end of the year, we should have 120 chefs and 120 locations, all with the bronze Food for Life as a minimum.
So not just like something written down on a piece of paper, they're going to be able to apply it. And
100%. It's got to be applied, right? So I think that there are a couple of the things there. We're also working close on our larder. So with the larder, Maddie, what we're doing there is making sure that the suppliers that we work with, they are aligned with everything that we talk about with people, planet and purpose, and their ingredients, the farmers, the breeders, the producers have to be aligned as well. So we've got this amazing larder now, whereas you as a chef can go to that, order off there and know that it's actually feeding into sustainable nutrition. Which is brilliant, isn't it? It's really good.
Food's coming from.
Totally.
I think, especially with like educating people to notice, because it's important.
And we need to give our chefs within the business, within their kitchens, the trust elements. We'll go back to trust. We've put this in place and this is where you can order from. And then alongside that, we've got Feed Me Back to Story coming in, which is going to be an amazing tool that you as a chef, Maddie, can go on to. One, get all the nutritional information and allergy information that's required for customers, but educate yourself even further by the AI technology that we're now putting into this as well. So that's going to be an incredible tool that's coming out.
And going back to cooking, how has the role of a chef changed over the last decade? And where do you think it's heading?
Well, I think technology certainly is playing a part in it, and access.
It's scary in a way.
Why do you find that scary?
Because it's like, it's taking, I think in some ways it's taking the intelligence out of, we're not thinking for ourselves as much anymore. You don't just like with recipes and things like that. That's the fun part about. That's like what I find the fun part about being a chef is you're allowed to be creative and make things up for yourself. But you can just do AI can do everything for you. Literally everything. Well, obviously, in some ways, it is really handy. I like to use it for converting measurements in like upscaling or downscaling recipes because I'm not very good at maths. So it does it for me. I think it's brilliant. So there are good parts, but then I do think that AI can be scary.
It's understanding the traditional foundations of what it means to be a chef and not losing sight of those. I think that's super important. Embracing what technology is offering us now and then starting to combine the two. But I think that's going to take a skill to combine the two because there's so much great information that you can get out there now. But there is this element of don't rush too quick, develop your base, develop your foundations, utilize what AI has got for you or technology has for you. Combine the two, and I think you then become a very, very powerful chef in respects of what you can offer.
And what is one mistake young chefs make when trying to prove themselves, do you think?
I don't think it's a mistake. I think it's an eagerness. And I think we've mentioned it already, and the eagerness is to rush ahead too quick. So I think it's, I think there's a saying, isn't it? Slow to go smooth, smooth to go fast, which means focus on getting things right. Focus on understanding them, focus on doing them well, focus on that element being fantastic. Whatever you are working on, whether it's your leadership skills, whether it's certain techniques, whatever, and then you'll start to see things speeding up, but you'll be doing them in a really good way and a very professional way rather than going too fast at it and not totally understanding what you're doing.
You'll have like a better knowledge behind what you're doing.
So I think that's key. To me, that's a key part. So it's not a mistake. I think it's more of an eagerness that you just need to be a little bit self-aware about what's going on. So,
And talking about that, is there any advice that you've been giving in your career that you would pass on now?
Yeah, I think so for definite. I think a very wise chef said to me, put 4 or 5 people around you that you can trust.
Trust again.
That will give you not the answers that you want, but the answers that you need.
Okay.
So you can go to them, tell them something, and they're not just going to say, yeah, great, love what you said, Maddie. They will say, you know, Maddie, that's not quite right. And you need, so again, that element of they're going to talk to you and tell you truthfully what's going on and where you're at the moment. So I think that's absolutely key. Let's have a quick look at the books. There's a couple of bits. I think as well, it is being grateful and appreciating the privilege of the job that we do.
Yes.
The fact that we can take these wonderful ingredients, cook them and delight customers with, and that's a privilege, right?
Yes.
An absolute privilege to have that. Be that 1% better every day. Every time you wake up in the morning, what's that 1% that you're going to do better than you did yesterday? And really drive for that to make it happen. And the last one, which we've talked about, is find your purpose.
Yes.
Work with someone, a coach or a mentor, whatever it might be, to find your purpose in life. Because I think then, when we talk about being eager and going too fast, that will help you on the journey. So
also, when you said about you appreciating that you're a chef and what your job is, it's funny because when I talk to my friends and I meet people like new my own age and they're like, oh, so what do you do? And I say, I'm a chef, and they're like, no way, that's so cool. And then I'm like, I guess it is cool actually, but you don't think it at the time, because in my head it's like, I'm going to work, this is my job. I introduce myself and they're like, that's so cool. So it's good to be reminded.
I think we stay don't we sometimes? And actually what we do can be super complex sometimes. But we just kind of like take it as it is. It can be super simple sometimes. It can be super complex, and that takes a great skill to do that. Forget that.
It's nice to be reminded, isn't it?
It is.
Rik, before we say goodbye to our listeners, is there any last nuggets of wisdom you'd like to leave with us?
You know what, Maddie? I think thank you very much. It's been lovely being interviewed by you.
You're welcome.
It's great to hear some of your views. And you know what? I think enjoy life. Life is precious, right? Don't get hung up on too much stuff. And I said it a few times, find your purpose, find what you want to do, enjoy that, and then just go and just spread that and nourish people that you come across. And don't take yourself too serious.
Yes.
Just be who you are. So
I love that.
I think that's what I would say. Yeah, that's what I'd say.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. It's been wonderful. So Maddie, we spent a bit of time together. For you, what's been your biggest takeaway from today?
I guess my biggest takeaway from today is talking about starting off as a chef and sort of the types of people you want to surround yourself by, people you can trust. That came up a lot, trusting people, and just being inspired, creative, like having a drive and a passion is definitely very important when you're starting. And knowing what your purpose is definitely will help with your future career and where you want to go. And
That's great.
This has been a great conversation, and I hope people take on board your words of wisdom and use them to champion and empower both themselves and fellow chefs. Thank you so much, Rik, for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. And thank you, listeners, for joining us on this episode of FYI, the Baxter Story podcast. We hope you loved this conversation as much as I have. Please subscribe for all things food, beverage and hospitality knowledge, and stay tuned for upcoming episodes soon.